everyone, Nikki here and welcome to my workshop Puppet Play. Here I will tell you all about an old form of puppet theatre which has influenced modern puppet theatre across the world today. I will then show you how you can make your very own puppet out of recycled materials whilst offering hints and tips on how to think like a puppet maker. First of all, I'm currently sat at my work table where to my left I have all the recycled materials you will need. Things like old tea boxes, juice bottles, kitchen roll tubes, tapes and scissors. To my right and slightly in front of me I have a metal puppet who I will introduce properly shortly. And to my right I have another puppet called Hoda who I will also introduce shortly. Right, so without further ado, the Bunraku puppet or Bunraku puppet theatre is an old form of Japanese puppet theatre which originated in the early 17th century. It is a puppet that is operated externally and requires 3 puppeteers. One person on the head, one person on one arm, one person on the body and on the other arm, and then one person on both legs. This practice has been modernised and adapted in different puppet theatre across the world, and I will be introducing my 2 puppets which are inspired by the Bunraku puppet. First off, we have Grasser. He is a metal man that was made for a play called McLenna for a theatre company called Night Train Theatre Company. He too requires 3 puppeteers, one person on the head, one person on the arm, one person on the body and the other arm, and one person on both legs. How he differs from the Bunraku puppet is that he comes apart and comes back together again. I will now show you the Hoda puppet. Here we have the Hoda puppet. Now she is also a puppet that was inspired by the Bunraku puppet. However, she was adapted so that I could operate her from a sitting position. So she doesn't have any legs, but instead has one long floral skirt which helps her glide across the floor like so. So this means that she doesn't require anyone to operate her legs and that I can operate her from a sitting position. She can also sit on my knee and she can wave. Now let's start making our puppet. First of all, take some time to gather the recycled materials you want or need. Feel free to pause this video here to find them. This can be an activity for one person or it can be an activity for 10 people, whatever you like. So the Bunraku puppet we're going to be making is very similar to this Grasser puppet. We will be making our parts separately and we will be bringing them together to form one puppet. So, tip number 1, think about how the materials you use influence your puppet's movement. Your puppet could be made out of this bag, which means it glides, just like the Hoda puppet glides. Or it could be made out of these bottles, which means it has more of a rigid movement. Whatever you like. Tip number 2, think about how the materials influence your puppet's character or the narrative of your puppet. So Grasser was a character who worked in a canning factory, and that is why he is made of metal. I wanted him to look alike and be influenced by his surroundings, and that can be seen in all of the patchwork on his face and all of the patchwork on his arms. Tip number 3, draw out your puppet first. This will help you get an overall vision and feel for your puppet before you start making. You could draw around your hand, you could draw around your face, whichever helps. Tip number 4, look at your own body and how can you replicate these movements? Look at your arm. How can you replicate that elbow movement without your arm bending the wrong way? These are all good things to be going around in your mind when making your puppet. But without further ado, let's get making. Feel free to pause the video here whilst you do that. Now let's start operating our puppet. So first of all, assemble your puppet so it is a complete being, whether that is with one of you or 10 of you. And let's get started. So my tip number 1 would be focus. Something I was always taught is that the head is the torch. If the head is the torch, it must guide the way. So whatever you do with your puppet, your head must lead the way and the rest of its body must follow. Tip number 2 is teamwork. This is important if there is more than one of you operating your puppet. When you think about it, you're a group of people working together to make one thing work as in unison as one being. So it is really important that you work together. If you don't and the puppet splits apart, one arm might end up here whilst the head is down here and the illusion is ruined. So tip number 2, teamwork. Finally, my tip number 3 is breath. Essentially, you're giving life to an inanimate object, and the way you do this is by giving it breath. So this is the puppet without breath. This is the puppet with breath. There we go. Thank you very much for tuning in to this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it gave you a valuable but brief insight into the wonderful world of puppetry. Thank you.